Hello and welcome, everybody. Happy Saturday. Good morning. Hope you hear the music and you're enjoying it. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to cover the current and future TOEFL, exactly how to study for success. I'll review this a little bit more just as our classmates come in and to confirm to you that what you're learning here works because I know there's a lot of information. So I just want you to feel safe and comfortable, right? Just as a reminder, I'm Joseph from Noteful. So I've been teaching the TOEFL for almost 20 years, helped over, amazing to say, but about 10,000 students improve and succeed over my career. So you're in good hands. You can really feel comfortable that you're going to be guided on the average journey for students and how to achieve top scores, right? Many of you want to achieve above an 80 towards 100 plus, but even if your goal is a little bit different, maybe you're looking for a certificate, getting in the 60s, 70s on the TOEFL, this will help you as well. So, welcome everyone. Now I'm going to bring down the music. I hope you thought that was fun. And let's go ahead and kick it off. So, Rabia, I see you. Welcome. Edita as well. Welcome, welcome. Happy that you're all here. So, and Magdalena, welcome. So, what we're going to do is we're going to kick it off, and I'm going to do a quick scroll so you see all the information that I'm presenting to you. Excuse me, which will be about the description of the current and future TOEFL, exactly how to study for the right mindset. We're not going to be doing any specific questions or practice because this is an overview to make sure that you're set up for success so that you're studying the right way, the right number of hours, so that you can achieve 5, 10, 20-point improvements. So if I scroll down, you'll see that we're going to talk about the current future TOEFL. I'm going to talk about how you need to organize your studies, how many hours, how long does it take to improve, so you can do the math and understand, okay, if I study this material in this way, I'll need this many hours to achieve my dream score. So I'm studying this many hours a week. I can schedule my exam at this time and be prepared to pass. How to schedule your time with an actual schedule, how to study for more effective results, the average journey where students tend to get frustrated and make some really unfortunate mistakes in how they study that add another 3 months to sometimes 3 years to their journey. And I know you don't want that. So you want to make sure to listen from beginning to end, and how we can work together not only now, right after class, to prepare you for success, but in the upcoming weeks. So great to be with you all. Hamid Reza, welcome. All right. So, first things first, let's go ahead and begin and give you a little peace of mind, right? Some comfort, because I know that sometimes, what are we going to do to make sure that you succeed? And with Noteful, we have on our YouTube channel and on our social media many success story interviews. But because we're always so busy with the material, with classes and tutoring, there are many students who succeed, and we have a wait list of success story interviews. We have success story interviews recorded that we haven't uploaded. So I just want to share with you, it's dynamic. Any month I get usually, 3 to 6 personal messages of students who've passed. Usually even students that we contact and reach out, it's like in the 10s to 20s, etc. So it's happening regularly, right? And so just to share a message I got earlier, this is Eva. So this is a student who has worked with Noteful. I'm going to share with you the courses that she registered for so you can too, and you can stay connected at the end. But it's amazing, right? She passed. I got this message. It's always a pleasure. I want to get that message from you when you pass. It's one of the reasons why I've kept doing what I'm doing for almost 20 years. And her total score is 109. So you see 28 on the reading, 29 on the listening, amazing scores, 25 on the speaking, 27 on the writing. And this is on the TOEFL. And we had an exchange as usual, just last week. So September 13th, 2025. And these are top scores in one exam. And so many of you who need this for the TOEFL for dentistry, for pharmacy, nursing, teaching, physical therapy, this is what we specialize in. This live class is for you, and to make sure that we cut your TOEFL journey short, that we pass it, and that you're ready for the transition. Because in January of 2026, the TOEFL is changing. So I'll talk about that, how we'll prepare you, how to understand the current TOEFL so you're effective for the new TOEFL if you need to keep going, and so that this can be you, right? So that you can get these scores or even higher depending on your requirements. So I hope that motivates you, excites you, and gives you peace of mind. So now we bring up Froggy. So what Eva and Magdalena and every student is familiar with. So Froggy is really important because when you're trying to achieve these top scores, we want to make sure that we're performing with comfort and with confidence. That sometimes if we've had some TOEFLs that didn't go well, we don't have that trauma that makes us believe that we can't succeed. So, Froggy is something we do for every class, just as a reminder, that has three parts that helps us now and for our TOEFL so we pass. And that is deep breathing. We breathe 6 to 8 seconds in through the nose, 6 to 8 seconds out through the mouth, and that just centers us, calms us, and starts to quiet the mind. Number two is we close our eyes. This is really important for now in the TOEFL because sometimes you can have a lot of distractions happening. You can have yourself maybe getting a little bit stressed. So closing your eyes just eliminates distraction. And then positive thinking. So positive thinking, I can do it, reminding yourself, I know more than one language. I'm fluent in more than one language. I know how to study and get results. I will pass. I can do it. So it's really reminding you so that when you open your eyes, you're in a better place, more confident to perform. Because stress often makes us go to bad habits, which keep our score low or make us less energetic. So we study less, right? So deep breathing, eyes closed, positive thinking. And let me say hello to Alexis. Welcome. And to Meyer, happy you made it. Glad you're here. So let's do this together as a group. 1 minute. Deep breathing, eyes closed, positive thinking. Let's begin. Let me come back in. Let's. I changed the view. Let's make it normal now. Okay. So let's kick it off. We're going to talk about the current TOEFL, the future TOEFL, and then how to study so that you feel 100%. So for the current TOEFL, you begin with the reading section, right? You have reading, listening, speaking, and writing section scored for a total at 120, 30 points per section. And for the reading, you read two academic passages that are about 700 words. You get 10 questions on each passage for a total of 20 questions. And you have 36 minutes approximately to complete that. Now, that is your reading section. So, very academic, very formal. Then you move on to the listening section. For the current TOEFL, you have 5 listenings. You'll have two conversations and three academic lectures, right? Hearing professors speak. So each conversation has 5 questions, each lecture has questions for a total of 28 questions. So very academic. This is what you go through, very much based on university situations. And this will take you about 40 minutes to complete, sometimes less depending on how quickly you answer. The speaking section is composed of 4 tasks where you have to speak 4 times. The first is where you express an opinion, what you think and believe and why. And then the second and third are where you integrate information. You read something, you listen to something, and then you explain the relationship. And then the fourth question, the final question, is where you listen to a little mini lecture and then you repeat it, you summarize it, and this takes you about 20 minutes. So lots to do there. The writing section, you have two. One is an integrated essay that you write where you read an article of about 280 words. You listen to a lecture that responds to it. You're able to take notes throughout the whole TOEFL. And then you write an essay about how the lecture responds to the article. You get 20 minutes for that. Then question number 2 is an independent essay, similar to question 1 of the speaking, where now you're writing your opinion. So you give your opinion on a topic, you produce something like a paragraph, and that takes you 10 minutes. So that's the current TOEFL. Reading, listening, speaking, writing, quite academic, about 2 hours total, no break. Now, the future TOEFL, which is going to come out in January of 2026. So you just subscribe to YouTube, you keep studying with us at noteful.com, and we're going to prepare you perfectly for it. We'll be one of the first to take the exam. I've been through a lot of TOEFL changes, so no big deal. And I think that the new TOEFL is going to be just as challenging in the sense because getting a top score is still going to be tough, but I think the experience is going to be simpler. The questions are not necessarily as complicated, but they're more varied. So let's go through the new TOEFL. The reading section is going to include insert missing words section. So you have sentences and you're basically choosing the right word that fits. So a little bit like vocab. You're going to have a daily life passage. So that's where instead of reading this big academic article, you're reading an announcement from your community, something that you might get in an email, an announcement from an organization that you're a part of. And then you answer some questions on it. So it's a reading question, but the content got a bit simpler. Then you have an academic passage. So this is similar to the current TOEFL, basically the same, all question types, all ideas, but it'll be shorter. It won't be 700 words. And the total number of questions will be 35 to 48. I'll be talking about that. It's varied because the TOEFL is going to be adaptive. In other words, as you start to answer the first questions correct, you're going to start to get more and more difficult questions, and how you finish the TOEFL reading, that level of difficulty you get to, right? Because it keeps getting harder as you keep answering correctly. That'll determine your score. So don't worry if that's a little confusing. It's going to be explained clearly in the coming months, probably especially November, December. That's when we'll be moving more seriously into preparing you for the future TOEFL. But right now, it's not necessary. This is necessary, just knowing how you're preparing in the current TOEFL for the future. So you see, your TOEFL studies right now are perfectly helping you for the future's TOEFL. Don't delay, don't procrastinate, don't postpone your studies. Study full power now. You're not wasting any of your time at all. For the listening section, that'll be next. It'll actually get a little bit simpler. I have to be careful with that too because it's still difficult. But what happens is that you're going to hear a short statement, like a sentence from a speaker, and then you're going to choose an appropriate response. Then you're going to hear a conversation similar to the current TOEFL between a student and an employee or professor, and you'll answer some questions on it. What's new also is you'll get a campus announcement. So you see that the TOEFL is trying to double check that you can survive more with a little bit more advanced everyday English. So something's happening, and then you'll answer some questions on it. And then an academic talk, which is a lecture. So you see that you still get conversations, you still get lectures. They're going to be the same kind of question types. It's just probably going to be a bit shorter. So everything you're studying in the listening section now will occur in the future TOEFL. It's just you're going to get a couple of new variations. Then the interesting thing is they're switching the order. So after the listening, you get the writing section, right? And what you'll be doing is you'll be first building a sentence. So they're going to give you a list of words and phrases, and you're going to arrange them so it makes the most logical sentence. So it's kind of testing your grammar that way. Then you're going to get email writing. I'm sorry, you're going to write an email. So essentially, it'll be something's happening. You bought something online and you don't like it. You want to return it. You attended an event and something happened. You lost something or you were not satisfied. So it'll say you're writing to some group, person, or organization and you're unhappy with something. Bring up these three things where you're unhappy with this, you want this, and this is what occurred, and send it. And so that everyday email, you'll have 7 minutes. Then the essay you'll have is question number two. So the current question number two, where you are giving your opinion on a topic, will be the exact same. So you see, they're going to get rid of question number one, the current question number one, but question number two is the exact same. So you're preparing effectively for that. Then you get the speaking. Now, for the speaking, the final section, you're going to repeat a sentence you hear, so it's really, really assessing your pronunciation. And so one of the biggest exercises I give for you to help yourself improve the speaking is to read out loud. So you have a nonfiction book, and every day for 15 to 30 minutes, you're reading out loud. I also ask you to have the audiobook version, right? So you have your book either on your device, like PDF or Kindle or whatever it may be. I think a physical book is really good for this exercise, and an audiobook version. So I ask that you read a paragraph while listening to it, and then you read it out loud. And you do that back and forth for 15 to 30 minutes a day. Tremendously helpful for your English, like unbelievably helpful. And even more important now for the TOEFL because there's more of an emphasis on pronunciation and your ability to speak a little bit more naturally. Then what you're going to do is you're going to get what's going to appear like a short interview where you look at the screen, someone asks you a question, you respond, and essentially it's going to be like four question number ones. So you can imagine, you give an opinion. What's your opinion on this? You answer. Oh, really? What's your opinion on that? You answer. And that happens 4 times. So the current question 2, 3, and 4 of the TOEFL speaking will disappear, and question 1 will occur about 4 different times. So it's super important that you concentrate on that. And now you're prepared for the current and future TOEFL. So yay. And let me just, welcome, Mohit. Happy you made it. So everybody, let me know if you have any questions, right? You can type them in the comments. And if I don't get any, I'll just keep going just because there's a lot that I want to cover. So now, having done this for nearly 20 years and working with you where you all have high minimum requirements, right? 100 plus for your dentistry exams, the minimum requirements for pharmacy, physical therapy, nursing, those of you going to graduate school also needing hundreds plus, teaching certificates, like so many. You have to study until you hit a certain score. And if you don't hit it, you can be working on the TOEFL for years, right? And it's okay. How do we break through and make you succeed just like Eva, the student that I texted first, or all our other success stories? You want to recognize that your mindset is important. So, how does it work? I really like this. So, when you study for the TOEFL, you can't forget that you're building your academic English. Sometimes we get so focused on strategy that we forget it's not a strategy exam, it's an English exam, an academic English exam. So we need to be improving our vocabulary, our grammar, our instantaneous comprehension in the language. And so I say it's 60% comprehension that determines your score, and of course, 40% strategy. But sometimes students are like 90% strategy. And so they're never kind of going back to school to change the way your mind can visualize, can picture information, can instantaneously hear and understand the language at an even higher level because you're excellent now, but you want to be better. And so, what I really like is you need to study so that you feel and experience the difference. So right here, this is the physical experience of mastery. It's a change in how you see and understand things. And so you're studying for that. So I really like this, but most people, when they see this, they tend to see one of two things. You can either see a rabbit or a duck. So usually when you see it, it's like what you see. So if your eyes start processing information from left to right, you see this as the front, and that means this looks like a rabbit because here's the rabbit's little mouth, here's the eye, and here's the rabbit's ears. So it's kind of looking up over here. Now, if you process information from the left to the right, your brain is going to interpret this as the front. And then you see this as the beak or the lips or the mouth of a little duck. And this is the eye. This is just the back of the head. And it's looking in this direction. So, what I've just expressed to you is what I teach you all the time. For 20 years, I understood and understand how to teach you how to process information in an academic manner that creates understanding. So if you follow no strategy, you're kind of going with whatever comes to your mind. But if you have strategy and I ask you, what is this? And you look from the right to the left, you can say it's a rabbit. If I say from the left to the right, you say it's a duck because now you have a very understood process. Now, for the TOEFL, this little thing that I just did, there are probably about 30 of these things for each section, new and future TOEFL, reading, listening, speaking, and writing. A lot of them, because of your background, you already know. You know how to handle sentences like this, how to read grammatical constructions like this, how to process information when you hear it, etc. But the average student who needs to improve has to improve this like maybe 12 little kind of academic constructions like this for each section. And so that's what I teach in every class, even now. So review is so important because when you understand what I say, that's great. You're like, oh, I see. I get it. That's pretty cool. But you have to memorize it. So that takes an hour of reviewing the same information. And then you have to produce it instantly on the TOEFL under stressful conditions. So this is how you have to think. You have everything that you're learning, you do have to memorize. So by definition, that means anything you learn, you're going to need to sit with it for 1, 2, 3 hours. And so then you're going to succeed. And that's what a lot of students miss. You just get some information, you got it, but you don't review it enough so that it's so memorized you can explain it. And that's when you pass the TOEFL. I tell all my students when they get their dream scores, just like Eva, now you can teach the TOEFL, right? You can coach students who are scoring lower than you because now you know it so well. So let's keep going. As a result, this is a journey of hours, sometimes hundreds of hours. Now you know why, without shortcuts. Uh, I I want to be very careful when I say this because I live in the same world you do. But I believe that over the course of the last 20 years, one thing that I've seen that has been a little bit challenging is that marketing has really given us a sense, I think many people, that if you're working hard, you're kind of a fool because you're not using my shortcut that's going to take what takes the average person 100 hours to do in 10 minutes. And we see that every day, everywhere. So we start to feel dumb. We start to feel unintelligent when we actually have to work hard. But if you talk to other students if you talk to other professionals who've gone through this journey, nobody says it's easy. And if they completed success in a month or 2 months, it was because they studied 40, 60, 80 hours a week. So I just want to remind you, you're intelligent, you're smart. If you have to work hard, it's because you have to work hard. Everybody has to work hard. You have to tell the difference between marketing and reality. And I would say it's a journey of hours to hundreds of hours. It's so be comfortable with that. Now the next thing is, let's talk about general study guides. Now I got a couple of questions. Let me see. And then I was wondering if it would be possible for me to take the TOEFL now and not lose the score when the new version drops. Yes, you will not lose it. If you take the TOEFL now, the score is good for 2 years, regardless of whether or not it changes. So I got 69 on my previous TOEFL. What do you recommend? Improve my general English or prepare better test strategies? I would say kind of it's very normal. We have a lot of students and both. So whenever I teach, I always teach both. So 60% comprehension, grammar, vocabulary, academic structure, and 40% strategy, right? How to answer detailed questions in 2 minutes, in 1 minute, 30 seconds. So I would say both 60% general English, 40% test strategy. And for easy help, so you don't have to organize that, I'll tell you about how to join kind of the course that I think is best for you and most students at the end. So good questions. And Ayema, do you have a 5-day course? Yes, we have a short course. I'll show you. It's called our free course. So if you go to noteful.com, you see the different courses we have. I'll be talking about more intense courses, but it's our free course. So at the end, I'll share that with you. So good questions. So general study hour guidance. Before your first TOEFL, I recommend you study 40 hours, about 10 hours per section. That's going to be sufficient to get your top score at your current level. If after your first TOEFL you didn't get your dream score, or you know you need to improve a lot, study at least 50 to 100 hours before any TOEFL. That's enough to make sure you improve. You're not wasting your money. You're really seeing improvement. You're feeling motivated. Now, the right perspective to improve your TOEFL score, because I get it and I understand. I feel the same way you do. Okay, I have to improve 20 points. I got a 80 and I need 100 plus. My exam is next week. What should I do? Makes total sense. And what usually I respond with is, here's what we have to do. We have to study 500 hours. So it's like, wait, there's not just one strategy that improves my score 20 points, only in marketing, not in reality, right? For 80% of students. So the TOEFL, just to give you the right perspective when you're thinking about your improvement, the TOEFL evaluates students from absolute beginner to PhD level, right? So the TOEFL goes from 0 to 120, where 120, not even, bachelor's, master's degrees in English native speakers get instantaneously. I mean, usually, but that's the level. So it goes that intense. So that means 0 to 10 is absolute beginner, meaning you don't really know the language, and 100 to 120 is English to succeed in a PhD program. So think about your native language. Think about a language you don't know. Think about the amount of work it will take for you not just to be sitting there, but to participate, understand, and have almost no trouble in a PhD program in physics, in math, and economics, in that foreign language. So that's what we have to get up to. And with Noteful, we've made something pretty powerful. And so the idea is that every 10 points represents a level up. It's like, you go to English school from the very beginning, and every semester, every 3, 4 months, your English gets improved just a little bit, and you're kind of gradually moving up over 4 years. So that 10-point improvement is kind of 1 to 2 semesters of English study. So it's meant to be that different, right? It's meant to be that much more challenging, those 10 points. Now, that's why it requires the average Noteful student with our material about 100 hours to improve 4+ points. So improving 10 points, you can think, is 250 hours of study, because that's how much time it takes to memorize the strategies, the grammatical patterns, the vocabulary sufficiently enough to be able to read, listen, speak, and write at a higher level. This comes from the awareness that mastering a new language requires about 3,000 hours of training, and that's the best training, very organized and powerful training, because you can study 3,000 hours and not be close to mastery of a language. So let me know if that makes sense, everybody. Let me know in the comments, right? Because this is good perspective. So when you study, you know the power and the dedication you need. So we're halfway through. So I'm going to go a little bit faster, but a lot of important information. This I'm going to cut. So we'll go a little bit smoother. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more now about how to manage your studies, as well as what to prepare with. So to visualize, you're just thinking to yourself, hey, if I study the right material, right? You trust us, you study with Noteful. I'm just on a journey. And the more I study, the higher I get. So it's not magic. It's not the secret key strategy. It's just building my skill. And I know how to do that. I've been doing that my whole life. So, how many hours should you be studying a week? 0 hours means we're getting worse. 6 hours per week means we're staying the same. We're not really improving our TOEFL score. We're keeping it the same. 12 hours per week is when we start to get improvement. You see that arrow. And 24 hours a week is when we start to improve at the highest level. So 0 hours per week, our TOEFL score is tending to get worse. We're forgetting. 6 hours per week, our TOEFL score is tending to stay the same because we're not losing our skill. 12 hours per week is just enough to start pushing us forward. So we're raising our score. This is the minimum I recommend. And 24 hours per week is enough momentum and repetition that we can actually improve remarkably fast. So some of us have to sacrifice a bit, and we're adult professionals and we know sacrifice, right? I'm not here to tell you it's easy. I'm not here to tell you to change everything, but I'm here to tell you that a lot of your classmates who've passed, they had to stop doing certain things they enjoyed, so they had another 1 or 2 hours to study. Some of them, went from adjusted their finances. So they went from full-time to part-time, because for every one of you, passing the TOEFL unlocks your future salary at such a high level. So this is your dream. This is a step towards it. You can absolutely do it, and know that it's worth it. And so I want to encourage you to, as you can, follow this. And so if you can only study 12 hours per week, no problem. But you kind of have a sense, okay, I might improve a little bit slower than I anticipated. If you're studying 6 hours per week, it can feel painful, because I'm kind of saying you might improve, but most students don't. So you're like, oh man, but 6 hours is hard. So it's just breathe, do the work that you need to do, journal, reflect, make some changes, and if you really want to pass, do feel like I got to hit that 12 hours. And if not, I'm okay being a little bit taking a little bit more time. Now, the next thing is deadlines, because you're like, hey, that sounds great, but I have my deadlines next week. So, how do I improve my score 20 points in the next 5 days? So, I would say we can do it. You can make a miracle happen. I have faith in you. And I also want to prepare you because we're also human, right? And so, your deadlines help you by pushing you to study more. I'm going to reduce doing this so I can study more. Your deadlines hurt by rushing your studies. It's tough, but it's kind of like, okay, I have to improve 20 points in 1 week. So it's only natural that I search for that on Google and YouTube. How do I improve 20 points? How do I score 100? Right? And the challenge is when we get that information, it is always giving us the same superficial templates and ideas. It's not, hours of training to build grammar and vocab. So it's both. You don't only want to study strategy and you don't only want to study academic English because then it's not maximized. So 60% academic English study, 40% TOEFL strategy. Our courses help you with that, but that's the mindset. So if you're always scheduling the TOEFL every 2 weeks, if you're always driven by a deadline, it can be an experience that really makes your TOEFL journey, instead of a couple of months of intense work, maybe 1 or 2 years of kind of a really frustrating and painful experience, because the pressure is always making you decide for that key strategy versus the fundamental required work. So you're always getting the same score despite the pressure and intensity of your studies when your deadline is approaching. And it hurts. We all want to succeed yesterday, right? So you can increase your study hours to improve more, but you can't rush your brain's ability to memorize, master, and do what you're learning. It's like your brain is an organic thing. If I give you 10 words on a language that you're unfamiliar with and give you 1 minute to memorize them, you can't. Nobody can. And those people who can are have developed a skill that took them years to develop, that will take you years to develop too. So it's kind of like, sometimes I say, look at me, I'm a professional boxer. I'm going to show you how to throw one punch in a few minutes so you can do it too. But we don't understand that to throw that one punch in that way took me years of training, right? So it's like, oh, it makes sense to me. It looks clear. So I must be able to do it too. So if we remember, we're a human being, nobody has those shortcuts, it'll really help us. Now, the next thing is, because you're a professional and this is a professional exam that is pretty intense, I think one very solid way is, do whatever you do. But if you find that you're not improving or you're not really having the best experience of effectiveness and power in your studies, do you have a study schedule? Do you have an outline of the days of the week, when you're going to study approximately, and what you're going to study? If you're not improving effectively or efficiently, this is, you want to think of it as required, because there's so much to the TOEFL that if you're not starting to organize when you're studying and what you're going to study, you're going to every day, just from the moment, think of what you're doing, and you're not really going to ever build all the skills necessary to improve. So you'll have that painful experience of studying hard but not improving. Now, the other thing that I want to share with you is, you remember the duck and the rabbit? That was all about in reinforcing memorization, right? You just have to think to yourself, man, okay, everything, like even right now, everything I'm learning, if I think, oh, that's helpful, I have to spend another 1 or 2 hours to memorize it. I have to, because my brain is organic and it will forget. It's designed to forget what is not repeated. And so that means that now when you study, I want you to always think this is studying. Any material, any video, any exercise, anything that is of value that helps you, you have to study it at least 3 times. So once today, once tomorrow, once next week, or even today for an hour, later today for an hour, tonight for an hour. But usually over a day or two is better because, or even more, like at least three. Then your brain has it somewhat memorized. And then what you have to do is you have to think that any process you have to repeat 50 times. So, what is that? This is the hard part. So, a process is that I'm always teaching you, and you're always learning on the TOEFL how to process information. So, that means I'm reading a paragraph. And when I teach, the first sentence is the topic, the middle sentences are the development, and the final sentence is usually the last point or the transition sentence to the next paragraph. Oh, that makes perfect sense. You have to review that 3 times. So you memorize it. You can say it instantly. And then in my material, I always give you a paragraph to study. I always say, let's look at this paragraph. You see that first sentence? You see how it's the topic? Because these other sentences are explaining it. So that paragraph that you use to practice the process, you have to study that 50 times because your body has to go through it enough that it becomes instantaneous, comfortable, and unconscious. So it is weird, different, and kind of specific to Noteful, but the most powerful and effective, essential way to study that is fundamental to all learning in humanity because it's just like basketball, like or any sport which feels more comfortable. I teach you how to shoot a basketball, right? You have to go out after I teach you and you have to practice 50 times. And then you think, actually, sometimes you have to practice 100 times. So now you think, oh, 50 is not enough. So it's the same thing. I teach you how to read a paragraph. You have to read the same paragraph 50 times. Then try another paragraph. Because by reviewing the same thing many times, your brain internalizes the grammar, the vocabulary, the spacing, the structure. It turns you into a master. And this is why it takes 100 hours to improve 4 points because this takes time. This takes 3, 4 hours. So this is how you study the reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And then you think to yourself, but that's crazy. That'll take me forever. And I say, no. I mean, I can improve my English forever, right? It's just you only have to do this 100 hours and you improve 4 points. And if you do it really well, you can improve maybe 10 points, right? You can go faster. But that's why you need a schedule too. Because remember, review 3, train 50, it's like, okay, I'm going to study this for 1 hour today, 1 hour tomorrow, 1 hour next week. But you're doing that for many things on the reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So you need that to help remind you. Let's continue. Now, the improvement roller coaster ride. This is really cool. I think you're going to really like this. And this is what a lot of students struggle with. So I want you to see these lines here. Now, this is your skill and your score, right? 0 to 120. This is your total hours of study, 100, 200, 300 hours. So you're studying and reviewing according to what I'm teaching you now because you're an amazing student. What you're going to find is when you first start to work to improve, your skill is at a certain level. As you study, your skill gets worse before it gets better Because you're doing something new. You're forcing your brain, instead of doing what it does naturally, which is your current skill level, you're forcing it to do things that are unnatural. So you get worse. And you get worse for like 10, 20, 30, 40 hours. Then your brain, with this new information, with what I just taught you on how to study, now you read a paragraph differently. Now it start, oh, things like you see the rabbit or the duck, you feel it. You all know this experience. It's like, oh, I'm starting to get it naturally. When you learn a new language, you've all had that experience where you've been studying a language so much that you start to think in that language, right? So maybe your first language is Spanish, and then you start to study English, and there's a point where you study it so much that you actually think in English instead of Spanish for the first time, and you're like, whoa. Sometimes you dream in English. Sometimes it feels like that is the brain showing you we did it. Things connected. We're different than we were before. So that starts to happen. You start to feel confident, and then you take a test and you see that you scored higher. So a lot of students, they'll take a test before they're ready. So they're trying to do 10 things at once and none of them is comfortable and they get a lower score or the same score. And then they feel, well, this material isn't working. So I need a new strategy. I need to bounce around. And so it's all because we didn't study at least 50 to 100 hours between TOEFL exams, which is the amount necessary for you to gain enough mastery to level up. And then your score is improving, which is super motivating, right? Yeah. And Bon, you bring this up. My last test, I got panicked and I hurt my score. That's another thing too. That's why it's froggy. And that's why even froggy is something you practice. So that's normal. That can be painful. But now you know, because if you study enough, 100 hours, even when you panic, you're well trained enough that you still score higher. So if stress and yeah, if stress is really influencing your score, that often means that we need to study more so that even when we're stressed, our skills are so natural, we feel stressed, but we still do better. Now, you see this experience too. So there's one other thing. When you practice at home, you're always going to, well, I don't want to say always, but you're usually going to be better. You're comfortable, you're relaxed, you're in a setting that you feel good in. So, not always, but it's okay that on the TOEFL you perform a little bit less than what you do at home. So, that's another issue students get into where I just did a practice test today and I did it at home and I got the score that is just where I wanted to be for my dream score. I'm ready to take my TOEFL. You actually want to prepare beyond your dream score. That can be painful because it's like, I don't want to study more. So you can take your TOEFL, but you just want to be prepared that I got to go take my TOEFL and I got to take it with confidence. I got to take it with power because that's the only way I'm going to get the same score as I do when I'm at home. And if I can't do that, if I feel nervous, it's okay, but I should give myself a little buffer, meaning let me study a little bit more. Let me do better than my dream score on my practice test so that even if I get stressed and a little nervous, I'm still good enough to pass. And so this is the journey, right? You study, you get a little bit worse, you get better, you take your test at home, you see that you're ready to get your dream score. You take the TOEFL, it's a little bit lower than you expect, totally fine. You go full power, you study again, and that's the journey. And so this shows you, okay, now I'm ready to understand how I improve. I'm not going to get frustrated if I get worse before I get better. I'm going to be prepared that if I'm kind of a little bit nervous, it's likely that on my exam I'll do a bit worse than I do at home. I'm going to I'm going to take care of these things in my head so if they happen, I'm prepared for them. I know it's natural and normal. Now, we're getting to the end. So to pass your TOEFL, when you take your TOEFL, you'll either pass or you'll need to study more. This is really important because it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. You just needed to study more. Review this live class to make sure you're studying right, and you'll be on track. If you don't pass, stay strong. Stay strong. Stay confident. Continue with your studies. It's not easy. It's common, though not desirable. And we know this as adults. We feel this every day that we need more time than we initially expected. I'm doing this, and I think it's going to cost this much money. Usually, it winds up costing more. I'm going to do this. I'll be ready by this time. Usually, it takes more. So it's the human experience, right? And at any moment when you feel overwhelmed, join a class or text immediately. So during my classes, I do give my personal number where you can text me, just like Eva and other students. I'm behind on messages, but I'll always be there eventually to reply. But most important, take a class like this class. I design every class to the best of my ability to motivate you. So my expectation is that you're all feeling a little bit clearer. It makes a little more sense. I'm a little bit more motivated. I understand better. So whenever you're feeling alone or you're struggling, just join the class, reach out. You'll get re-inspired, and we'll just keep moving to your dream score. But don't forget, everybody, review 3, train 50, and that rabbit is the key, because I do see that there are times when I tend to give the same feedback for month after month after month after month. And if I give the same feedback, for example, let's say I always give feedback, we got to build our vocabulary, and we're not building it. That means that we're not dedicating maybe half an hour a day to improving our vocabulary, 3 to 7 words a day. If I always give feedback on your grammar when you write, your punctuation, that means we're not spending the hours just studying punctuation, rewriting it, capitalization. So just make sure that any feedback you get, you are investing 4 to 6 hours on that specific feedback, organized with your schedule, and then you'll keep improving. Because the craziest thing, and I just have to say this, is we are it can be really sad, because when I give feedback, for example, let's say pronunciation, right? We have to change our pronunciation to get a higher score. To master a certain part of the pronunciation, let's say it's speaking smoothly, avoiding ums and uhs, it usually takes you sitting down for like 4 hours and just doing the exercise I assign to you, and just 4 hours, maybe over 2 or 3 days, and then it reduces. But if we study maybe 1 hour a week or 30 minutes a week, there's never enough repetition. So the brain learns a little bit, forgets, learns a little bit, forgets. And suddenly you feel there's something wrong with you, because you think he keeps giving me the same feedback for the last year, and it's all because there was not one day where we worked on that feedback until something changed, which usually takes 4 to 6 hours. But it's not 40 or 60, it's 4 to 6. Then the brain passes through, and then it's like, click, I got a new skill. So again, I apologize, but I just care very much about your success, and I see that so much, and it's so painful to see. So it's normal, but keep that in mind. Oh, this is the old image. But 1 to 3 days before your TOEFL, review to visualize. So you should not be studying 1 to 3 days before your TOEFL. There's so many parts that what you should be doing is just reviewing. Don't practice anything new. That can, if you make a mistake, it'll stress you out. It's not worth it. There's so much information, you have to organize it in your head. So, what that means is you're able to sit down, close your eyes, and visualize yourself going through every minute of your TOEFL, applying all the strategies that you've learned. Okay, time management, detailed questions, do this. Because then your brain is organizing the information. It's like practice, it's like there's no GPS, and you're reviewing the map to get to your destination. So that means you're not going to get lost. You're less likely to get lost. So 1 to 3 days before your TOEFL, just review, close your eyes. Can you go through every minute of your exam with comfort and confidence? Do that for 1 to 3 days, and you'll be ready to perform at your highest level. And this guarantees your success. 20 years, you're going to pass. Guaranteed, 100%, no joke. I promise you. You follow this class, you do what you're learning, you'll improve regularly, and you will succeed. And so, if your success is guaranteed, and if you know you're studying the best methods, then you can allow yourself to be who you are, an intelligent academic professional who loves to learn, who loves culture, who's very curious, who likes exploring information. So you can actually enjoy your TOEFL studies because you're learning about different things in, Western culture. You're learning new vocab. You're getting information about different parts of history or different parts of the world. If you allow yourself to just let go of that sense of pressure to improve, which I know can be hard, but if you know you're improving as fast as possible, there's a little space for that. And that means you'll study more and you'll succeed faster. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our class. Whew, we did it. I'm going to now tell you and encourage you for how we can work together so we can apply all of this with your material. So we started with Eva, who scored a 109 last week on her TOEFL, working hard to improve to show you what you're learning works. We then talked about the current and future TOEFL, so you know, don't delay, study now with full power. What you're studying now will continue in the future TOEFL. We worked on your mindset to success, which was all about you got to study and organize your hours. Your success is not from strategy, it's from hours of organized study, and you learned how to do that. We learned about the up and down journey to success, what to do before your TOEFL, and that if we're doing everything we can enjoy the journey. So, bravo, everybody. Pat yourself on the back. Good job. High five. I hope you found this class helpful. And now, how do we work together? I invite you to 2 courses where I'll prepare you for everything integrating what we've learned. The first is our online TOEFL classes, our famous gold course. If you haven't heard of it already, I guess it's not that famous, but you should have. So this is a combination of online classes and self-study material, $97 per month. And let me just share with you what that looks like. So this is our gold course. So when you go to noteful.com, in our TOEFL prep section, if you click on online TOEFL classes, you see our gold course. You click on that, you register, and then through that you create your account with us. From that account, you have your membership. It'll say gold course. When you click on that membership, it'll take you to the first page. And let me just show you all that you get, which integrates what we talked about here. And the number one thing is read the first page. It's just me talking you through every minute of your studies until you pass. So when you click and you read, I'll teach you about the classes and the schedule. I'll talk about how to study, where we'll go more deeply into what we discussed. I'll teach you the essential basics of every section, all the strategies and tips, the critical habits you need to be studying to improve your English, grammar, academic structure, pronunciation, coming up with reasons and examples, bonus training, which is pre-recorded classes where you have over 100 hours of recorded classes where I'm guiding you through reading, listening, speaking, and writing tests. It is the core of your success. It is what is going to train you to pass. Then we have before your TOEFL, we have a practice test for you to evaluate yourself with, and success meditations, which are that visualization, the 1 to 3 days before your exam, where I guide you through everything step by step, as well as my personal number where you can text and reach out to me if you have difficulty. So that is the number one most important course that I invite you all to, and it was responsible for supporting Eva to success and countless students. And I promise you, it will support you to success and for the current and future TOEFL. Then the next is TOEFL Max Writing. So this is a really special course. This is the core is your gold course. That's all sections, all parts. And then for the TOEFL Writing, if you need extra help with that, TOEFL Max Writing is super cool because it combines my training with AI tailored custom tutors with individual feedback for your essays. So definitely gold course is number one, all sections. And for those of you who want extra help with writing and just want to improve quickly, go to our TOEFL Max Writing. Click on that. You'll get the description. It's super cool. There's even personal tutoring that's part of this course. So get it. And it's exactly what Eva had as well. And so just to scroll back up, you can get this and higher if you study more. Or if you don't need that 109, you can just study until you do get your dream score. So you see the gold course, you see the TOEFL Max Writing course, what you're capable of with it, all the way to perfect 30s. And remember, this is on the TOEFL that was last week. So we're going to help you now, next month, next year, until you pass. And with that said, everybody, join. Our classes start October 6th. They're every month, but there's material, as you see, for you to start studying right now. Don't delay. So it was a pleasure. Let's do some outro music. Let's do this. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and bye-bye, everybody. Good job. We see some final questions. So Magdalena, this class and live will be on our YouTube channel. It won't necessarily be in the courses. So it is good to always make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel so that you get the bonus lessons and different things. Hamid Reza, it was a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, once more. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful night and weekend. Study hard. Your success is coming. Until next time, this is Joseph from TOEFL, inviting you to the Gold Course and saying, goodbye, everybody. Good job today.